Hey again, everyone. It is Rob Ryder on Sunday, September 1st, 2019. Wow, where did the summer go? Today, bad faith in the neighborhood. Does the Defender of Faith have an agent in D.C.? I really hope that she does. The Defender of Faith would be the Queen of England, and her long title, she's one of those sections is called the Defender of Faith. And as it was pointed out by the Supreme Court, the court said, well, the court doesn't have any jurisdiction in matters of faith, right? That is the jurisdiction of the church. And, looking back at some of the old English law stuff I used to look at, back in the day, right, the earl and the bishop would sit together and hear all cases. And then at some point, like around the time of 1066 invasion, well, they changed it a bit and said, well, now the bishop will sit somewhere else and hear cases that are spiritual, and the earl will hear the cases that are temporal. So it becomes a matter of what's a spiritual case. And, matters of faith would be spiritual. Right? Is it good faith or bad faith? So I had done a video on that idea here a little bit ago. And where was that thing at? The politics of faith. Right? So between the politics of faith and the deed of declaration to legalize in the Methodist way, makes it look like, well, John Wesley, he enrolled all of his chapels and the Methodist societies, as they, I guess, they would probably properly be called. He registered it in the High Court of Chancery in England. They weren't registered in the United States. The United States wasn't here. Well, then in 1784, he sent some of his peeps over here, and they were supposed to be creating a thing called the United Methodist Church at a Christmas conference in 1784. But Rosita's been doing some checking this week with the actual place that it happened. The name of the chapel, I'll get to that in just a second. Lovely Lane Chapel, I think it is. And they don't have any, legal records that this church was ever registered. So the thing called the United Methodist Church with a capital C, right, on the church, and the United Methodist Church with a capital C, capital T on the because they use them both interchangeably, is what they were telling Rosita, but they don't seem to have registered these, like with the Secretary of State or wherever. So, did they register it in England with the High Court of Chancery? Or did they not register it at all, and those entities then are really just unorganized associations, but the one that is still legal and hasn't been replaced is the one that John Wesley started under his deed of declaration, which that was what this video here is about, his deed of declaration, where he was legalizing all these societies because he was worried about things like societies of attorneys and so forth, right? And when they put in the Constitution that there would be the right of free association, well, that's what these societies are. They're associations of people. And they can say, hey, here's the laws we're going to go by, get the state to agree, and then that's what they go by. So if those laws say that, they're going to advance the law profession, like the Bar Association, well, then the way they would do that is they'd make everything as confoundingly complex as possible, so you always have to have an attorney. Right, they're going to look out for the best interest of the Bar Association and not necessarily the best interest of the United States. And if that Bar Association had been actually created in England and came over here as a foreign entity and just got a certificate of authority, well then, really it's basically the crown here in the United States with an agent. And that's what I think the Methodist Church is. It's the agent for the defender of the faith. And so I wrote some things to the defender of the faith about bad faith goings on in my life, and that's what part of this video will be, is me reading those different documents that I sent out. But along the same lines then was this thing about these patriotic societies that I've talked about before, like the American Legion, the Patriotic Society. It has a federal charter. Was created, so all these patriotic societies are in Title 36. And when you read their bylaws and so forth, if they do certain things, they could have a lot of power. Right? So this would be our associations to be in. We can't be in the Bar Association. We're not an attorney. But you could be in the American Legion Association if you met its criteria. Or, there's any number of these entities that are in there. But, at the time, after I had found that out and started doing some research on the American Legion, I was again dismayed to find out that they have all these powers, right? What's the purpose? The purpose is to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. Okay. Who can be a member and what are its powers? Right? Its powers are to adopt the Constitution and bylaws, adopt the seal, maintain offices, establish state and territorial organizations, provide guidance, acquire, own, lease, encumber property, publish a magazine, sue and be sued, and do any act necessary and proper to carry out the purposes of the corporation. Well, as I was showing in the act for the Methodist Church in Michigan, right, these are really the same kind of powers it has. So it's not that they're different organizations, they just have different members of the organization. But if you could be a member of this organization that has the power to sue and be sued, then they could protect you. They would act as your agent against these other agencies. Well, the problem with all that is they have one thing they have to do before they can use any of that power. And so as a condition to exercise of any power or privilege granted by this chapter, the corporation shall file with the Secretary of State or other designated official of each state the name and address of an agent in that state on whom legal process or demands against the corporations may be served. But that doesn't seem to have been done because the American Legion, according to its constitution, its headquarters is in Indianapolis, Indiana. And when you go to the Secretary of State's business website, Indianapolis, for Indiana, that is, it's not listed anywhere. Now, I don't know, and I haven't really looked to see, is it listed in Indianapolis, the city of Indianapolis records. I guess I should try that, but they said the Secretary of State, or other office, right? So these are those caveats that give the attorneys the wiggle room they need to, make noise about something that doesn't really matter. That's what Wesley was complaining about back in 1784. So, give me just a second to get a few things organized here, and we'll talk about a few of them. Hang on. Okay, so I'm going to, basically what this video is me reading things that I have written to these various entities over the last bit of time here, as much as, so I can make a public record of it as anything else, but, it does tie a lot of the things I talk about in other videos into one document, and, here's the result. So we'll get into that in just a second. If you want to email me, Rob Ryder's email address is courtofrecord@aol.com. My phone number is 616-712-6179. But I'd hope if you're going to call me, you would donate also. That would be very, very helpful, because I do need your help keeping the lights on, right? I can't pay my rent again this month, and I can't pay which means I can't pay my electric bill, and I can't pay my cable bill. And people have really helped me out in the past. People have helped me out all the time. I wouldn't be doing this today if I hadn't been for y'all that do donate. Thank you so very much. But, there's lots of people that don't that could. And I just wish that you would. And so you could do it by PayPal to robryder@aol.com. That's my PayPal account. Or by credit card. You could email me the amount you want to donate, and then I'll send you a money request through PayPal, and you can use your credit card. So you don't have to have cash. You can use your credit card. Right? So, hey, be generous. You can send it in the mail. Robert Allen Rutluski, 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast, Rockford, Michigan, 49341. Just make sure you spell it right. Especially if you wanted to, because you could use Western Union or Walmart, right? But they like you to, spell it right. Even if one letter off, they're going to give you a hard time to try to get your funds. Or hey, you could do a wire transfer, right? If you email me, I'll send you my banking information. Again, I don't have anything to hide. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay here and get this figured out. Or I'm going to have to go get a job and stop doing this because I can't afford to live. But until then, I'm going to stay here and keep trying to figure it out. And, well, here's some of the things that I have done that, to me, they're out of the box thinking a bit. So I'm all for it because I'm tired of, trying to put things into courts that don't seem to pay any attention to. So let me see where to start. I'm going to start with what I sent to the American Legion. So I sent this to the American Legion by fax, right? So anybody who's in the Legion, right, you could send them something too and complain about the same thing. It might be better if more people were complaining than just, an old cantankerous Michigander. So report from the field, violation of American Legion Charter, Section 21707. Legionnaires in 1919 by Act of Congress, members, or Legionnaires, it should be, in 1919 by the Act of Congress. Members of the American Legion were given authority to do any other act necessary and proper to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. All right, emphasis on to do any act necessary and proper. All right, that was the power. What's the purpose? To uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. We would have that power if the American Legion had registered agents like it's supposed to. So how unfortunate it is that our delegated authority to maintain law and order, to foster and perpetuate a 100% Americanism, etc., is a POW to the ongoing war between good and evil. So in their list of powers and purposes, right, these were some of the other ones, right, to maintain law and order. That's the purpose of the American Legion. And to foster and perpetuate a 100% Americanism. Well, that isn't happening because it's not properly registered. Only God and Satan know why the American Legion National Executive Committee has not complied with the Congressional Charter, the result of which is the disenfranchising the American Legion of the power its members are to wield in their fulfillment of the American Legion's purpose. But they have. The Charter, Section 21707, Service of Process, is very clear. And we read it already. As a condition to exercise any power or privilege granted by this charter, the corporation shall file with the Secretary of State or other designated official of each state the name and address of the agent in that state whom legal process or demands against the corporation may be served. So Michigan should have one. In fact, there used to be a listing for the American Legion in Michigan, but it's been abandoned since like 1980. And I started checking, other states around the area, same thing. Either, they're just not done right. They don't have an up-to-date today registered agent. So we need to get the American Legion to get some registered agents. And, to do this, they just have to find one honest lawyer. The Black Swan, as Wesley called him. Okay, an honest lawyer is about as rare as a black swan. So the American Legion Constitution states the national headquarters of the American Legion shall be located at a site of the Indiana War Memorial in the city of Indianapolis, Indiana. There is no state registration in Indiana for the American Legion. No registration means no authority. To add insult to injury, the Charter states the purpose is to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, but the Legion's preamble defends the Constitution of the United States of America. By defects such as these, the American Legion is rendered legally powerless. Is this a mistake or treason? The devil is in the details, and every jot and tittle of the law is important. What the book says is what the law follows, and if your books are wrong, the law is against you. This deceit is the work of attorneys who are members of a society that advocates the overthrow of our constitutional form of government. These attorneys give up their First Amendment protections when they voluntarily join the bar. As members of this association, it is their duty to advance the interest of the bar, not uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. These bar members are domestic terrorists engaged in an insurrection against the United States, and they infest the political parties of the United States. They recite unconstitutional oaths of office. They contain a religious test, so help me God, in offense of the Constitution's 6th article, then subscribe this oath using a false identification as part of a scheme to usurp the authority of the United States. They do not use their full legal name. They don't use the name on their birth record. Right? That's your identity, unless you have it changed by a court and you have a court record. You can't just put it in yourself and say you change it. No, the court has to agree, and you got to have a name change. But if you haven't done that, then whatever's on your birth record is your legal name. And it needs to be used for identification in official matters with the federal government. And taking an oath of office is an official matter. And as a member of the military, I took an oath of office. I use my full legal name, but none of these people do. So they must not be in the same venue that I am. Then why are they running the United States? No, that's in this letter, but go on now. Here's the letter. So my oath of enlistment is in my full legal name. Every veteran's oath is in their full legal name. So why then do we allow this deceit by imposters? The American Legion should be spiritually stomping their asses into the ground by upholding and defending the Constitution of the United States. Unfortunately, the American Legion National Executive Committee has failed to follow instructions. And this failure rendered the Legion impotent to carry out its purposes for existing. So what is the excuse of the National Executive Committee for failing to register the Legion's agents with the proper officer? How hard can it be to do? Can you find an honest lawyer and make him or her accountable? Reader, will you immediately raise the flag and inform the national commander? Jesus Christ, commander of the heavenly army, heavenly host, orders that the national commander to fix this problem, and he is expecting you to take my report to the commander and be his witness to proceedings. By the way, reader, are you a veteran? Did you know that your DD-214 is filled with errors and omissions that result in your being denied the entitled benefits and privileges you earned by your honest and faithful service? It is true. I did a video. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Does DD-214 Fraud Equal UCMJ Violation? It turns out that we have never been released from the military, and someone is collecting the value of these unclaimed benefits. If seeing is believing, then please tell others. When the American Legion is properly registered, we veterans can enforce our claim to the bonus all veterans are due. But first, we need the American Legion to square away its paperwork. So, help, please. Now, you would think, you send that, somebody would contact you. I haven't heard a word. Now, there was a couple days there where I didn't have any power. We had a storm come through on the week. What day was it? Thursday. And then most of Friday. So if they had tried to call then, I couldn't have got the phone call. But these are the things that are wrong, all based on the simple fact that they didn't follow the instructions of their own charter, which says what to do. They got one thing to do so they can have the power, and it hasn't been done. So, if you're a veteran and you want to have a talk with the American Legion, please do. If you're a member of the Legion, go to Legion. Go down there and tell them down there. Or maybe go through those channels. So, this is what's happening, right? They create all these entities, and then the devil's in the details. They just get you not to do a couple details, and everything else is for naught. It's just show. It's got no value. Okay. That's it for that for a second. Hang on here. This is my newest addition to my oaths of office. I got the oath of office. This is supposed to be the oath of office for the governor of the state of Michigan. All right, so now what are we looking at here? I mean, it looks pretty cheesy to me to be an oath of office for the governor, but they said it is. Hey, it says governor on there. What does that say there? Received, filed, Michigan Department of State on some day, December PM 1258, something, Great Seal. But it doesn't have a Great Seal on it. And so this is supposed to be from Gretchen Whitmer, who claims to be the governor of Michigan, or state of Michigan, I should say, state of Michigan. But Gretchen did not use her middle name, which is Esther, E-S-T-E-R. And her oath was apparently witnessed by a notary public. Well, according to the Secretary of State, the governor has to have her oath of office witnessed, right, by this official witness here, by the Attorney General. And then, so on the website, that's what it says, and they give you a particular Michigan compiled law to go look at. And when you read it, I don't see where it says it has to be the Attorney General, but it says a state officer, right? And it lists the officers they're talking about. Well, they're not talking about notary publics. And also in Michigan, if you want to run for office, the first document you had to put in is an affidavit of identity. So if the name on her affidavit of identity doesn't match the name that's on this oath of office, then, whoever this is an imposter and doesn't have any authority, right? She's claiming authority, state of Michigan, but state of Michigan isn't the name of the government, right? It's Michigan. County of Ingham. So anyways, that was my latest one, right? So, this is the idea of, this is bad faith. This is an oath of office. It was done in bad faith. I should be able to take this to somebody who could get it to the defender of the faith and say, hey, this was done in bad faith. The courts say they don't have any jurisdiction over it, so, the church has to do something with it. And I've shown this one numerous times in videos. This is from the Congressional Record for the House, January 17, 2019, towards the end of the day, where they're going to go into take an adjournment for the day until the morning. But after the adjournment, they keep on going, and this is on the same day now. Right now they're adjourned, but we're going to go ahead and say that we're going to put these oaths of office into the Congressional Record. But it was done during an adjournment. And really, these are things that should have been done on like the first day they meet when the new session starts. Well, here's the oath of office they take, which says, so help me God. And so just by doing that, it does not conform with the 6th article of the Constitution, which says you need to take an oath to support the Constitution, and you can't have any religious test. There's your religious test. The President's oath, the one that's in the Constitution, doesn't say the word support. And so as it turns out, hey, there's this whole other first act of the first Congress after the ratification of the Constitution to say, here's the oath that you take to satisfy the 6th article. Right? And it's in 1 Stat, S-T-A-T, Stat 23. And if you look at Title II, that talks about doing these oaths for the House and the Senate, it has in there that it's 1 Stat 23. Well, this oath here isn't 1 Stat 23. It's out of 5 USC 3331, which is really an administrative code, right? The Congress's code is this Title II. So, and then as you can see, they use middle initial names. And Andy, is it Andrew? I mean, what's his full legal name? Are these the names that are on their birth records? If not, then they were legally insufficient to be used on an oath of office. You can't put Eric A. Rick, in quotes, Crawford, and say that that's your name. Is that on your driver's license? I don't think so. Okay, so that's, this is bad faith. All of this stuff is bad faith. Who handles bad faith? Well, that's what I was looking before, and here's a map of D.C., and here is the Library of Congress, and here's the Supreme Court of the United States, and then right here in this corner is the United Methodist Building, right, which claims to be the only non-government building on Capitol Hill. And in this building, was this Reserve Officers Association, which is another association we'll look at in a minute, formed in 1950, another patriotic association, given a charter. But in here, this is the general. I have to go see who it is, get their name right. Of Church and Society for the Methodist Church, or for the Methodist, not even the Methodist Church. It's the United Methodist Building. It doesn't say church, it's United Methodist. That's what they are, right? When they want to talk about them, they say United Methodist with a small C church after it, with the not capitalized and the C not capitalized on church. So, but it was the Supreme Court, which is right here in this building, that said, hey, we don't have any jurisdiction in matters of faith. That's the exclusive jurisdiction of the church. And right next door is an entity claiming to be representing the Methodist. So, that's my question, right? Does that satisfy this? Right? Is that the defender of the faith's agent in D.C.? The Methodists, because the United Methodists were enrolled in the High Court of Chancery, which is part of the Church of England, because in England the church is part of the state. It's got the Court of Chancery, and the Queen is the governor of the Church of England. John Wesley never left the Church of England. He incorporated or enrolled his properties into it. And then the Methodists, they're proud to say they were the first ones. They were right behind the settlers, the first church in town, basically. So there's some civil tie-in between the Methodist and the civil government. I'm quite sure of it. And so what I did is I wrote a couple things to them. We're going to look at those now. So hang on just a second. Let me get those up. Okay, so in this video, does DD-214 fraud equal UCMJ violation? I had gone through a long form DD-214 I have with the regulations that go with filling the damn thing out and say, well, let's just start at the top, go to the bottom, and see what's wrong. And check. There's all sorts of things that are wrong. Basically, that document, the DD-214, which is supposed to, be your proof of service, is legally insufficient to do anything. Right? It's a document of fraud. So it doesn't prove that you've been released from the military, which means you're still in the military. And there's a whole story behind that that's just too long to get into right now. But, the idea is that whatever it was supposed to have proved, it doesn't. And so it's an act of bad faith. It was filled out in bad faith because it has an officer's signature that says that it was, that all the information is correct. It doesn't have my signature on it. It should have, but, I didn't sign mine. So, I said, okay, well, there's something to take to the United Methodist and see what they'll do with it. Say it's a matter of faith. So this is my first go around with them, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to make it to the defender of the faith, because at the end of the day, that's what, that's who's in charge. If it's a matter of faith, well, who's the defender of the faith? Care of Mark W. Harrison, who's the Director of Peace and Justice Program, Special Assistant to the General Secretary at the... it's got an email address. So, petitioning the defender of the faith for redress of bad faith acts by agents of the U.S. government. I, Robert Allen Retluski, Christian. I have to stop there. In a bit, I'll show this video where you can download the link. But if you listen to what this lady's saying, she says, according to the Methodist, when you're baptized, you are given the name Christian. Everybody is. So I say, well, that's my surname. So if I put it at the end, Robert Allen Retluski, Christian, and if you've done any of this research, you see that a lot of times they take your name and they put the last name at the front, right? So normally, for me, it would be Retluski, Robert Allen. But now, if I do it this way, it would be Christian, Robert Allen Retluski. Well, put me in the Christian book then, right? So I'm just doing what they said. If you said that if the Methodists believe you've been given the name Christian at baptism, when you're going to contact the Methodists, if you've been baptized, put Christian down as part of your name. So I did. Confirmed as Michael, that's my confirmation name, petitioned the church for redress of bad faith acts by agents of the U.S. government that result in denial of entitled benefits and privileges earned by honest and faithful service to God and country as an enlisted soldier of the United States. The General Board of the Church and Society, right? So this is the entity that's in the Methodist building, General Board of Church and Society. So the General Board of Church and Society's neighbor, that'd be the Supreme Court of the United States, has ruled that the First Amendment guarantees a spirit of freedom for religious organizations, which is, it's an organization, didn't say a church, religious organization, and independence from secular control or manipulation. In short, power to decide for themselves, free from state interference, matters of church government as well as those of faith and doctrine. Some court case in 1952. So the Supreme Court is saying we got nothing to do with faith. Well, then I'm not going to them to ask about matters of faith or crimes or anything else, because all those things are bad faith. Right? You have to have sinned to commit a crime. And so we need to go to the bishop first to find out if he's going to acknowledge that the dude sinned. Right? Give him the evidence. Go to the church first. According to the court, the church has exclusive jurisdictions in matters of faith. I and other veterans require intercession by agents of the defender of faith to secure our persons, papers, houses, and effects from unreasonable search and seizure, and I petition for such relief. DD 214, errors and omissions. My understanding is that every person that serves more than 90 days of active duty is to receive a DD 214 certificate of release or discharge from active duty, which is really all it does. It removes you from active duty, as proof of service when applying for entitled benefits and privileges earned by service to God and country. Right? If you're going to get administratively separated from the military, there'll be an order to do that. Your DD 214 doesn't separate you from the Army. It terminates your active duty. release or discharge from active duty, not release or discharge from the United States Army. The military has not given up control over you. You still have the right to court martial, trial by court martial, and a court martial court guarantees your due process. So if you're a veteran going to court and it's last ditch effort, what are you going to tell them? Tell them, well, there's a gold fringe flag, Judge. This isn't a court martial court, right? But there's a gold fringe flag. That means this is a military courtroom. But I'm entitled to trial by court martial because there's more than one kind of military court. So you need to step up and say that you're guaranteed trial by court martial. And see what they do. A few weeks ago, a lady did it, and they continued her case. She was there to be found in contempt of court, but they didn't find her in contempt of court. They continued the case. Now, I haven't talked to her since. I don't know what she's doing with it, but or what happened next. But just telling them that made them stop. So if you're trying to buy time, well, there's something that worked. So there is only, back to the petition now, there is only one by the book good faith procedure for creating an individual's DD-214. Various regulations mandate what data goes in each section of the DD-214, and these regulations do not allow for deviation. Regulations are orders, and not following a lawful order is insubordination or worse. Right? So they didn't follow the regulation, then they didn't follow an order, and they didn't follow the regulation. Because it says in there you can't deviate. And they did. You'd have to watch the other video to get all the details. But anyways, I compared my DD-214 to the Army regulations for completing this document and soon realized that the DD-214 that I am to rely on for claims is legally insufficient for the intended purpose. And in effect, I am still in the Army in some unknown to me status. I could be missing in action. I could be away without leave. I could be on unpaid leave. But my own opinion is that I have been medically retired and someone else is claiming my retirement pay. Because my piece of paper isn't worth a shit, but somebody else may have got one that is. Right? That's what I'm believing. So in an act of bad faith, this document was unjustly authenticated by a U.S. Army officer as being true and correct. I petitioned the Michigan Military Veterans Affairs Agency about this issue, expecting it to act as my advocate, but the agency has failed to provide my relief as is obstructing justice. They won't call me back about it. And they won't let me talk to the director. Right? All you get to talk to is some bozo on the phone. No, we can't help you. I sent the same petition to the Michigan Judge Advocate General Office asking that my concerns be forwarded to the court martial convening authority, but only to be denied relief again. And we'll look at that stuff here in just a second. So enclosure 1 is a copy to the Judge Advocate corresponding, including the petition sent to the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency and the Judge Advocate Office reply to me. I have many entitled benefits and privileges that depend on a good faith DD-214, such as right to trial by court martial, a Geneva Convention compliant identification, augmented Social Security payments, pension at 60 years of age, commissary, exchange, MWR privileges, and veterans benefits. All that stuff depends on you having a proper DD-214. Maybe this is why we have a hard time getting our benefits, because our DD-214s are insufficient. So that was one thing. And the other one was the unemployability compensation by Department of Veterans Affairs. With this rating, unemployability, right, a veteran is entitled to 100% disability payments. That's about $3,000 a month, without the need to be rated 100% disabled to qualify. Veterans are entitled to increased compensation if determined to be unemployable, and according to the VA manual, in many instances, the veteran's unsupported statement will be enough evidence to substantiate unemployability. The manual says if you say that you're unemployable, That's all you have to have. Well, that doesn't work. So continuing. Within Title 38, the Code of Federal Regulations, that would be the CFR, are the regulations again, to be followed in good faith in evaluating veterans claiming unemployability. 3 particular sections. It's 3.321, General Rating Considerations, and 4.16, Total Disability Ratings for Compensation Based on Employability of the Individual, and 4.17, Total Disability Ratings for Pension based on unemployability and age of the individual. Guide the decision-making process in this determination. And in a nutshell, one disability rated at 60% or higher, or multiple disabilities combined at 70% or higher, with any one of them rated between 40 and 59%, are the requirement for immediate authorization of unemployability status. Or a veteran can ask for extra scheduler consideration if they do not meet these disability ratings. In the VA manual, some long-ass name, or blah, 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 is an explanation on how unemployability is established. Right? So this is right out of the VA's manual. Unemployability is established for pension purposes when the evidence shows an inability to secure and retain substantially gainful employment by reason of disability, as well as related factors, right? Inability to secure and retain substantially gainful employment by reason of disability. Remember that, because now we're going to define substantially gainful employment, which is substantially gainful employment is employment that is ordinarily followed by non-disabled to earn their livelihood with earnings common to a particular occupation in the community where the veteran resides. The VA acknowledges that only the non-disabled can maintain substantially gainful employment. It's part of the frickin' definition. To be substantially gainfully employed, you got to be non-disabled. Substantially gainful employment is employment that is ordinarily followed by a non-disabled. Right? They did it on purpose. So, the VA acknowledges only the non-disabled can be substantially gainfully employed, and an application upon which a disabled veteran states that he or she is unemployable is enough evidence to authorize unemployability compensation. Now, if you're a veteran, listen to this. There's a separate form to do for this unemployability compensation. Right? It's like increased unemployability. I don't have the form number up right now. So, but anyways, you got to do this initial form to have a claim, but then to get increased compensation, you have to do the other form for this unemployability. And if you have a 60% or higher, well, then you're supposed to be able to get it. You know, if you have any one disability, 60% or higher, boom, you can get unemployability. If you have multiple disabilities, you know, with a total rating higher than 70, and one of them at least a 40, boom, you can get immediate authorization. Right? That's written right into the statute. That's what the regulation says. Well, they're not following the fucking rule. That's bad faith. But if you don't have either of those, you can, as a veteran, you could just ask for it. Right? Because they said up here that, you know, in many instances, the veteran's unsupported statement will be enough evidence to establish unemployability. So anyways, the Department of Veterans Affairs employees do not follow the CFR and VA manual. This refusal to follow regulations causes irrevocable harm to disabled veterans' compensation. My claims for compensation and unemployability have been denied, except for the 10% disability rating for ringing in my ears. I'm ringing right now like crazy. These denials certainly must have something to do with my defective DD-214 or other errors in my official military records, because the law clearly shows that I'm entitled to the benefit. I am powerless to overcome these acts of bad faith using civil courts. Therefore, in the holy name of Jesus Christ, I pray, agents of the Defender of the Faith, See to my relief this day from many works of the iniquity of the devil's disciples, and confirm the properties of my estate as mine by right. Have a blessed day. So that's simple enough, right? I just, there's two things. Your DD-214 is full of errors. And if you're having trouble getting whatever it is you're trying to get from the VA, right? Because there's all sorts of people with claims in waiting to get stuff done. If you're already above 60%, you need to file the form for unemployability, right? And then we need to go find out who to complain about, that the bad faith that's happening. That's what I'm trying to do. Say, okay, I filled out the form. I can read what it says. It says here, right? One disability rate at 60% or higher. Right, that's in 416. In 38 CFR 4.16, it will, I believe that's the one that gives the actual amounts. But there's just, those three sections. They're easy enough to find. Just Google 38 CFR 3.321 or 4.16 or 4.17. So here's a DD-214 that I was talking about. And on mine, there's a couple things you notice, right? That they put on here, I did not receive dental care. Well, if you read this separation authority they talk about here in its entirety, you'll find out they have these medical portions. And for something like this, if you're awaiting medical care, hospital care, because in the Army it's part of the hospital, they can keep you in and hold you past your date. And it said here I never had my teeth checked, which must be, part of the process. I never signed mine. Mine's got an NA up here in box 9, and you read the manual about having an NA up there. It's like, well, either I was kicked out of the military or I was retired. I wasn't kicked out of the military. But the meat and potatoes is, see, they have the separation code. Well, this separation code has got a narrative, and it comes out of the same manual. And the manual says they got to use the separation code and the narrative that go together. Well, this expiration term of service, these words don't exist. It isn't the separation code. This separation code, JBK, would have you believe that I'm barred from reenlistment. Yet I have a RE1A reenlistment code, which means I can reenlist. This really isn't what was supposed to be here. This is wrong information from the separation authority. And this is supposed to say yes. Members copy. I should have got a copy. Right? I shouldn't have had to ask for it. They should have given me one. I should have got that before I left on leave, actually. And then got mailed, because this is the long form, right? The short form they give you ends right here. And, right after the date. So if you don't have this long form, you're going to have to get it from the National Archives, or whoever has your records. That's who had mine. But I found all these errors. So I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and write to these people called the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, because they're supposed to be the agent for all the veterans of Michigan to deal with all these agencies. So, to the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, attention, Zanetta Adams, the director. Report a UCMJ Article 139 offense for court-martial convenient authority action. Director, I received a Service 2 copy of my DD-214 from the National Personal Records Center and have attached an image of the same to this report. Using AR, this is for the Army now, 635-5, as a guide, evidences that there are many errors and omissions on my DD-214 that negatively impact my status and contribute to the unjust denial of entitled benefits and privileges. My property has been unjustly seized, and I demand relief from this injustice. The Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency owes a fiduciary duty to veterans, and I expect the full cooperation and quick resolution of that restores my good name and my rights, titles, and interests in the unjustly seized property. According to AR 635-10, the word, I think it should have been 635-5. Oh, well, whatever it is. The word none needs to be in block 17. The number of days secured. There's nothing in there. The separation authority does not reference the separation orders issued by the appropriate commander in accordance with 635-200, 4.16 separation authority. The reenlistment code, RE1A, in block 27 acknowledges that I am eligible for reenlistment, but the separation code, JBK, in block 26, signifies that I received an involuntary discharge and that I was barred from reenlistment, note 7, and forfeit retirement eligibility. The narrative, block 28, is not related to separation code JBK, and the narrative does not correspond to any separate code of AR 635-5-1. Right? So this is AR 635-5-1 is the manual in the Army that has all the codes in it, and then what all the narratives are that go with it. But they could be different for different branches, and they could be different for different, times in history. But at the end of the day, that's what they're using. So, Director, I did not sign this POS. That would be a piece of shit, fraudulent document. Block 21 uses an improper phrase to allegedly signify that I was discharged in absentia or physically unable to sign. Yet some deputy adjutant general, block 22, signed it, and in doing so has slandered my good name and damaged my entitlements and privileges. Because he's signing saying everything on the form is fine. I was not involuntarily discharged. For the record, I was promoted to staff sergeant with less than 6 years' time in service and informed that if I re-enlisted, I would be promoted to sergeant first class within a year. It is obvious by these errors and omissions of material facts that a fraudulent scheme is being used to deny veterans their entitlements and privileges. Director, you have a duty to report this offense of a UCMJ Article 139 to the local court-martial convening authority for its decision on how best to restore my rights, titles, and interests, and prosecute bad actors in the armed forces of the United States. The Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency owes me a fiduciary duty, and its director and employees are liable for their failure to do this duty. Well, I guess they're liable because they don't want to do anything. They want to say that all my time was federal. Right? That's what they say. Well, you served in the Army, didn't you? Yeah, well, you're going to have to talk to the people about federal. We're Michigan. We're the state of Michigan. I said, well, that isn't true. We got one government, one nation under God, and according to the Michigan Military Act, I am in the militia of the state of Michigan. So, their answer didn't make any sense to me. So I said, well, fine, I'm going to go ahead and send it to the judge advocate, which I did. And they told me they couldn't help me. So that's why I decided, well, I did what I did, and I sent it on to the defender of the faith. But yeah, UCMJ Article 139, if somebody in the military is withholding your property, you're supposed to be able to file an Article 139 claim. I've never done it before, but I can read what it says in the UCMJ, and I wanted these people to tell me how to do it, and neither of them would. I couldn't even get Jay to tell me who the court-martial convening authority is. So, any place that there's attorneys, there really seems to be a problem. Because all attorneys had to be members of the bar. And when they become a member of the bar, they give up their First Amendment rights. And so by giving up those rights, they're agreeing with an entity that they're agreeing to be part of an entity that is going against our constitutional form of government. A different word to use for that, but right? They advocate the overthrow of our constitutional form of government because they joined an entity that doesn't allow you to use your constitutional rights voluntarily. So those are a couple things going on. I think I had one more to show, and then well, I'll be done talking about it. But give me just a second. All right. Hey, a couple more things to talk about. So then just this morning, these things I'm doing with the church, I had just done last night and this morning. So this morning I said, well, the one I sent first went to D.C., but there's a guy that's the Bishop of Michigan, right? The Michigan Episcopal area. So I said, well, let me send it to the bishop, because they should be the representative of, who in the hierarchical structure, they're, a representative of the hierarchical structure. So in the Catholic Church, all the bishops are under the Pope. Well, then, if this is still under the Church of England somehow, then all these bishops should somehow be under the Queen, who's the defender of the faith. And so if they're going to say, well, that isn't the way it works anymore, well, then who's the defender of the faith in the United States? Because the Supreme Court has said that the court doesn't have any jurisdiction in matters of faith. So we need to make everything they're doing a bad faith, case. You need to say, hey, this is being done in bad faith. So, petitioning the defender of faith for redress of bad faith acts by agents of the state of Michigan. I, Robert Allen Retluski, Christian, confirmed as Michael, petition the church for redress of bad faith acts by agents of the state of Michigan that result in insecurity of my person's papers, houses, and effects, or unreasonable searches and seizures. The state of Michigan is not the constitutional government of Michigan. It is a company pretending to be the government. I'm not a member of a society, and I claim it has no jurisdiction over my person or property. I'm a veteran soldier of the United States Army, protected under the Uniform Code of Military Justice and guaranteed due process. But my entitled benefits and privileges are denied me. The Supreme Court of the United States has ruled the First Amendment guarantees of, hey, we read that already. According to the court, the church has exclusive jurisdictions in matters of faith, and so I am petitioning for the redress of the following bad faith acts I am victimized by. State of Michigan. State of Michigan Department of State. So number one, State of Michigan Department of State is attempting to enforce a court file number 194053 decision by claiming authority to deny my driving privileges. The state of Michigan is simulating a legal process under color of law. I have not been apprised of the nature and cause of my allegations. No Michigan compiled law has been cited that I allegedly violated. Number two, Michigan Department of Treasury bill for taxes due, intent to assess. I received two assessment numbers, blah, 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 on my business, Robert Allen Retluski, and its account number, claiming that my business owes almost $14,000 in taxes, penalties, and interest. In accordance with PA Public Act 122 of 1941, I have asked for the information used to make this determination, and I have asked for a hearing of this matter. Both requests have been denied. My property is being concealed from me, and my account has apparently been seized from my use without due process of law. Bishop David Bard. These bad faith acts are the responsibility of the defender of the faith to vindicate on my behalf, and I petition for the redress of these grievances. I have attached court file 194053 and the failure to answer, and the assessments to this petition for redress, my DD-214, as well as my proof of baptism, confirmation into the Universal Church. If you need any other details, please call, and please hurry. All right, so this went to the bishop of the area that I'm in Michigan. So in Michigan, they have a bishop of Michigan. In Illinois, they got a bishop of like northern part of Illinois and southern part of Illinois. And, so I guess it just depends on how many Methodists are in each area. Registered Methodist. So, okay, and I just want to show these documents really quick, because I don't know if you've seen these before, but, I do have an EIN as a sole proprietor for my business, Robert Allen Retluski. And this is the physical address. Right? So, right? Robert, all caps is my property. It isn't me, it's my property. But I got these bill for taxes due, intent to assess, when I was playing around with my residence address. And what I had done, because you can, change your address and send it into the Secretary of State where they do driver's licenses and stuff. And I had always thought, they said, well, one of the things is that the township hall, or in my case, Oakfield Township, well, that is really the place that I am, right? So my residence is Oakfield Township. What's the address for Oakfield Township? And so I went online, looked up Oakfield Township, and sure enough, it said on the website, address for Oakfield Township, and then it gave the street address, which is like 10300 14 Mile Road. They're just up the road from me. But they didn't have a +4 address, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to make that my residence address and send it in and tell them to change my address. Well, they did. But I kept this as my mailing address, right? This is my mailing address I've had. So I didn't change my mailing address. I just changed my residence address. Now, this was, August of last year. And I probably had done this in like June or July, and then I get this paperwork. It's like, well, what the hell is this? So technically, this should never have come to me. It should have gone to the, apparently have gone to the township hall. But because I changed my residence address, it went to me. Now, after this, I had changed my residence address to something else, because I was testing some other things. And I never did get back around to changing it back to this, to making my residence address the address of my township hall. But I am going to do that again, because that's the one that got me this. And who knows what else I might have gotten if I had kept it there. But anyways, it shows that my business owed $5,400, and this is in business tax. What is this one for? This is sales tax, right? Penalties and interest, almost $7,000. And then I got another one, and this one's for use tax, like excise tax, for $7,000, right? So a total of, that $14,000. Well, I'd like to know where they got their numbers from, because if they're saying, they used something to come up with these numbers, and they're saying my business did so much business that, in taxes, I owed $5,400. They were both for $5,400 in use and sales tax. Well, sales tax is only like 6% or something like that. So that means that my business, Robert Allen Rutluski, did, whatever 6%, whatever $5,400 is 6% of. So, fair chunk of money. Well, I want to know where it is. Where's that account? Because, the rest of it's mine. Fine, take your damn taxes and give me the principal. But they haven't done it, and they won't give me a court. I thought I was going to have an administrative hearing on this, and they shut it down. Right? They just do whatever they want to because they're not following the law. Right? Everything they do is in bad faith. So I want to find out where this account is. Where the hell is this account? It's mine. Give it back to me. And then I had gotten these. Failure to answer for, drove without unlicensed or license not valid. It's a violation, but it doesn't give any Michigan compiled law. I didn't violate any law. Where's the law that I violated? There isn't any. They're going to say that I'll be violating this law, or because of this law, they can do what they're going to do, this MCL, right? But where's the MCL that says drove while unlicensed or license not valid? Where is that MCL? There isn't one. And the dates or the addresses for the court are different on this form than they are on the ticket form. Right? They're only using an address without a +4. Yada, yada, yada. So, these are the things I was complaining about. And I sent it today to Bishop David Bard, and hopefully when he gets done with his services, he'll check his email. Okay, that's it for the things I had sent. You know, I'm not opposed to sending something for somebody, but I'm just going to say you're going to have to pay me to do it, right? I mean, and I'm not going to come up with some crazy ass stuff. It would have to be short, sweet, to the point. But I don't even know if this is going to work yet. But one way or the other, we have to let these people know who we are and what we're trying to do. And so, to me, it's going and telling the Pharisee the truth, right? I'm taking the truth telling truth to power and see what power is going to do about it. Just stand there and, put up with the persecution, whatever it takes, until they finally agree. All right, one more thing I think I wanted to show you. Hang on here. Yeah, I had said that in this building here is this Reserve Officers Association. So we'll look at that real quick. But I haven't looked at this yet. Council of Bishops, or UMC. I have to look them up and see what they're doing in that building, because that looks like it's separate from the United Methodist. Up here is that General Council of Church and Society, or whatever they called it. Right? So, Council of Bishops of the United Methodist Church is a different entity completely. And you got United Church of Christ. And Dana had told me, which the guy was helping in a court case, that he said, pretty much everybody who works in the county he lives in, they all go to the United Church of Christ. Go figure. We need to be talking to them about their acts of bad faith. So, first of all, this is two things in one, right? I didn't know that there's a House Committee on Veterans Affairs. Right? So you may want to write that down if you're a veteran. But in the building is this thing it was called the Reserve Officers Association of the United States, right? What is a professional association of commissioned and warrant officers of our nation's 7 uniformed services and their spouses. ROA was founded in 1922 by draw down the years at World War I, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So they also have then another one that is for enlisted that is supposed to have been, I don't know, was created off of this one or not. Anyways, talking about the committee real quick. This committee history and jurisdiction. All right, the Committee on Veterans Affairs is the authorizing committee for the Department of Veterans Affairs. The committee recommends legislation expanding, curtailing, or fine-tuning existing laws related to Veterans Affairs. The committee also has oversight responsibility, which means monitoring and evaluating the operation of the VA. If the committee finds the VA is not administering the laws of Congress intended, then it is corrected through the hearing process and legislation. We are the voice of Congress for veterans in dealing with the VA. So the VA tells you where they want you to go to complain about their stuff, and then they open up this United States Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, and they want you to go there and complain. But I didn't realize, well, they have something through the House for a committee that has jurisdiction over the VA. And so I'm going to go here and tell them about the unemployability, I just hadn't got around it yet. Right? The Department of Veterans Affairs is a cabinet rank succeeding the Veterans Administration, and blah, 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 blah. Mainly I wanted to show was this right here, right? That this committee says that they have oversight over the VA. Now, there was something here about complaints. Where was that at? Complaint, complaint, complaint. Let me just go in here. Oh, here it is. Report waste, fraud, and abuse under contact. And when you do, right, you're... How many choices they give you? They give you lots of them. Okay. I don't have to be a mister. I don't like being a mister, right? Robert Allen, go in the first name box. Rutluski, right? You only have one given name, Robert Allen. And email address, and then you can put in here what you're complaining about for waste, fraud, and abuse. And it says here, I know there is no commitment more important to our country than the solemn vow, right? Oaths, vows, and promises we have made to the men and women in our armed forces by the ranking member, Phil Rowe, who's a MD. Well, I'm going to write to, him, basically, by filling this out and see what they had to say. Okay. What I wanted to show... I thought non-commissioned officers could be in this too. I'm going to have to go read this closer. But they have a public law that created it. I wanted to show some of the sections of this public law. Public Law 595. So how do you do this? Well, it says on the other site exactly what this is, but this is June 30, 1950. Being enacted, all these people, these are all a bunch of people in their residence where they're at, right? And by such names shall be known and have perpetual succession and powers, limitation, restrictions contained in this act. Okay, the object and purpose of the corporation shall be to support a military policy for the United States that will provide adequate national security and to promote the development and execution thereof. Well, that's a pretty strong purpose. And to do that, they have these powers. Sue and be sued. Do all acts and things necessary and proper to carry out the object and purpose of the corporation. Right? So again, all these are the different powers that basically make you almost like a municipality. If you're a member of this association, well, then they can protect you from other associations trying to put claims on you. Eligibility for membership in the corporation shall be determined according to the Constitution and bylaws of the corporation. So I've asked for those. I want to see, what does it take to be a member. And conducting the official business of any department or chapter, each active member of such department or chapter shall have one vote. So if you're a member, you have the right to vote. It shall keep at its principal place a record of the names and addresses of all members entitled to vote, and its principal place or office is in the District of Columbia. Right, so you would be recognized because they'd have your name. The National Headquarters Corporation shall be located in the District of Columbia. The corporation shall maintain at all times in the district a designated agent authorized to accept service of legal process for the corporation. Notice to or service upon such agent shall be deemed to be notice to or service upon the corporation. And I looked online, you go to DC, business lookup, and put in the name of the entity, and sure enough, they're in there, and they got a guy's name, and it looks like it's all legit shit for today. But it's the 17 that they don't have, right? As a condition precedent to the exercise of any power or privilege granted or conferred under this act, the corporation shall file in the office of Secretary of State or similar office in each state and each territory or possession of the United States in which the subordinate department or chapters are organized, the name and post office address of an authorized agent in the state upon whom legal process and demands against the corporation may be served. And I'm not finding those, but if they don't all that would mean is, well, then Michigan doesn't have a local chapter. Its chapter is the national headquarters. Right? One nation under God. Well, there was a reason for wanting to maybe be a member of this. What was member benefits? Insurance programs. I was looking through this site, and they have these different insurance programs, and they had one in here that was identity theft. There it is, ID theft. Let's take a look. Term life resources. Well, I'm not seeing it now. What the heck happened here? Go back to the... Oh, hang on. If I can find it, I'll be right back. Hang on a second. Yeah, here it was. Identity Theft Protection Plan under personal insurance. And overview. Identity theft is America's fastest growing crime, where one new identity is stolen every 2 seconds. And unfortunately, identity crimes today go well beyond simple credit fraud. Fraudsters are now using personal information to gain access to tax records or tax refunds, medical care, coverage, passport, driver's license numbers, even online accounts, social media sites. Well, that's what, we're talking about the cops. Right? They take your ID, run it, and they just stole your ID. I mean, they've already stole your ID, whoever they are, because they never use your full legal name in court or on any legal documents. Your property taxes don't come in your full legal name. Your car bills aren't in your full legal name. Your taxes from the IRS aren't in your full legal name. They use the middle initial name. Right? They don't use your legal name. And so they have stolen your identity, and they're trying to get you to pay somebody else's taxes. So I say, hey, I didn't realize that this, exactly that this type of insurance existed. And it's like, I was going to today go on here and take a look at it a little bit closer. But now after looking at this site again, it's like, well, maybe I can't be a member because I'm not an officer or a warrant officer. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay. Hey, that's really what I had to show you today. It was just the things I've been working on. And, bad faith. Now, you might be able to take it to your local church and go to the pastor and say, look, this is a matter of bad faith, and the Supreme Court says the courts don't have any jurisdiction over bad faith or over faith. It's a matter for the church. So what do we do? And if somebody tells you, then please call and tell me, and I'll tell the world. Right? But, it's a matter of going to them because it's their venue, it's their jurisdiction. The church has jurisdiction in matters of faith. And again, if you can help me keep the lights on, crunch time is here. Please do. PayPal. Send it in the mail. Right? Stop right here now and write this down and, send it right now if you're still watching. I'd really appreciate it. Very, very, very much. Okay, you all have a great day, and let's see what comes next. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.